Joining us tonight. Tonight we're talking about preparation and practice. This is Stefano.
That was so much fun. I'm getting pumped up about these webinars now.
Awesome. Oh, hey, Katie. Katie's on.
And I think this is one of my, after last webinar, I was thinking, man, there's so much importance in preparation and practice that I think we should spend a little bit more talking about it. And just to revisit, why is this so important? Well, preparation is 9/10 of your presentation. And if you want to be an expert speaker, you need to prepare like an expert as well. Now, there's usually 4 different parts in preparation. There's before writing your speech, which we'll be talking about tonight. There's writing your actual speech, preparation and drilling before your event, and then what happens during your actual speech or event. So let's start about before writing your speech. And I just want to revisit what we talked about last time, which was the story journal. And well, first of all, let me start off. I want to tell you a story about my grandfather. I'm always talking about my grandfather because he's one of the most wisest men you've ever met. And he used to live in Tulameen, which is just outside of Princeton in the interior. And back in those days, they had a cabin and with electricity, but they heated their house with a wood stove. And see, Grandpa Joe Pollard, he was a smart man. And he always used to tell me, he said, Stefano, if there's something you want to find, what was it again? If there's something you want to find, then just use your mind. And what he would do every day, he would walk to work. And he would think about things that he wanted to find on the way. So he'd pick up pieces of wood, and he would have to stoke his fire all winter long. And he started early. But he'd think about it, and on the way, he put aside logs. He'd look for different trees that we'd cut down. And on the way home from work, who would pick those things up and bring them home. Now, it was a minor inconvenience. He had to carry these things, but he knew that with a small bit of effort, it would pay off. Well, now there's Silvio. He lived down the street, and he was a little bit of a different guy. He was kind of cranky. He would go to work, and he'd think about the bad day he was going to have at work. And on the way home, he'd think about the bad day he was going to be when he gets home as well. And he never thought to pick up any wood because he thought, I'll just go do it at the last minute. Mm-hmm. Well, this year, that year, there was an early winter and there was a big storm. And there, old Silvio had to run out, struggle. He just had to cut down wood, and it was miserable. It didn't have enough wood for the winter, and it was a miserable winter for him. Well, their grandpa, he had enough wood to last him the winter. He had enough wood to share with his friends, and he even sold some as well. So what's this have to do with public speaking?
Mm-hmm.
Everything. Now, I think one thing that's important is if you want something in life, you have to focus on it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's like if you've ever bought a car before, and maybe one day you're out and about and you see a car you really like, and you think, gee, I really like that car. And then all of a sudden you start noticing those cars are everywhere. It's not that there's more. It's that now you're focused on it. Your mind is tuned in to seeing all of those cars. There's a part of your unconscious mind called the RAS, the reticular activating system. And its job is to seek out all the patterns, similarities, and connections to what it is that you're looking for. So you see a car and you think, I really like that car. It's tuned in now to showing you all of those cars. And those are like opportunities. They're like the cars of opportunities. So if you're looking for opportunities, or in speechcraft, if you're looking for ideas, you'll start finding those ideas, right?
That's one of the biggest things I learned, and it doesn't come around right away. You have to tune your neural network into actually finding these things. And sometimes it starts difficult, but then it gets easier and easier. So here's kind of a way that we have that's almost guaranteed to take your speech crafting to another level, and you'll never run out of material. Right now, I have a story journal, and I keep everything in there. I've got folders for stories. I've got folders for jokes. I've got folders for different things in different places for different situations. And anytime I'm called to speak on absolutely anything, all I need to do is open my story journal and I'll find something. So I'm always prepared. So here's what you can do. During the week, write down 3 things that happened to you. And the important part of doing this as well is you want to start writing down the feelings around the experiences. You want to write down what sounds there were, the smells, the sights, and to help you remember to recall later on. Because we don't think in terms of words we write down. We think in terms of what we see, hear, and feel.
Right.
So at the time, by writing it down, you may think that you're recording everything, but no, you want the essence of those things. You want the essences so you can recreate these stories for your speeches.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Craig Valentine said it the best. He said, you don't tell your stories or retell your stories, you relive your stories.
Nice.
Yeah, you relive the experience, not retell. So I think it's the rich experience that paints that picture. I'm always using the same metaphor. You're painting the picture in your audience's mind. And what I mean by that is that's exactly what you're doing. You're showing a picture. So it's not just the words you're saying, it's your experience, it's the life force you put out in it. So it's important to record those things.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree.
Another good thing to do is identify the struggles or conflict in these experiences. Now, this is essential because in speechcraft, conflict and tension are the drivers for emotion. Mm-hmm. If you identify the conflict that happens in each of your stories, find a way to bring those back, because as speakers, we're basically emotion elicitors. We elicit emotion.
Yeah.
Yep. Here's a good one, and this one that'll help you a lot is when you're taking your experiences, writing them down, get a speaking buddy. Now, having a speaking buddy is now, hopefully you don't have to scrape the bottom of the barrel to get a speaking buddy like I did. Hopefully you could have somebody that's of the same sort of state of mind as you, of like-minded. It's important because it's hard to see things from the inside out. Mm-hmm. But it's easy for people to look in and see the same things.
Yeah, you need that perspective.
Yeah. Now, when I'm talking to speaking buddy, I would stay away from somebody that is like a friend or a family or somebody that's used to knowing how to predict you. Someone that's not used to you and used to your different ideas. Have you ever had that family member you shared this wonderful, exciting idea with, and they've stomped it to death in front of your face?
I think we all have that person.
That's what friends and family can be like. If you have someone that's open to your new ideas, then that's fine. But having a speaking buddy is the best thing, because it's hard to tell where you're coming from in your own head.
Yeah, for sure.
Now, take those events that you write down and discuss them with your speaking buddy. Get their input and write it down as well.
Mhm.
Next thing you want to do is ask yourself, what did I learn from this? Why is this experience so important? Write down your feelings.
Yeah.
Now, it doesn't matter what event happened to you, as long as you get 3 things, and they can be seemingly meaningless things. You can always find some sort of experience that comes with it. And I think this is important because for each speech you make, the message is the most important part of it. You ever been listening to someone's story and then after the story, you're kind of thinking, cool story, bro.
Yeah. Yep.
So you got to have a message. So write down what did I learn from this, what the experience was, because it's the most important part. I hear a lot of speakers speak and they'll give their entire speech and you're sitting there, you feel kind of ripped off in a way because there was no actual takeaway. There was no actual good feeling or anything that came from that speech. Every speech should have a good, profound message, even if it's a humorous speech. Try to find a little bit of a message that you can put into there. One of the most important tasks that I had to do when I was first learning speaking, and is difficult task, but my mentor told me, he said, listen, if you want to start to learn to do this properly, if you want to start getting your mind focused on pulling messages out of stories, you have to do this task. And he called it the 10 by 10 by 10. So what this is write down. So for example, I had a story about a business that I started back in 2000. He said, write out 10 possible messages that you can tell with this story. Each message has to be 10 words or less, and in words that a 10-year-old could understand. And at first it was difficult. It's hard to come up with possible messages for. It was about a breath mint that my brother and I had discovered back in 1998. And I really struggled. I'm like, I had a story. It was a great story, but it had no message. It had no real meaning to somebody else that wasn't a part of it. So I really had to rack my brain. And at first I only came up with a few, but then I came up with a few more. And then it started expanding into different things. And next thing you know, I have that one story that I could tell 20, 30 different messages with. And each message was powerful. So I could take that one story, tune the message into whatever audience I wanted to speak to. 10 words or less is important because when we're making our speeches, our message needs to be crystal clear. There's a lot of times where people, they have like a million different themes to their messages. You're not sure which way they're going. By the time you're done, you're sitting there confused thinking, well, what was he trying to tell me?
Right.
So your message has to be crystal clear. And with one speech, one message. For, say, for example, a 10-minute speech. If you're going to do a 45-minute keynote or something longer than that, then you can expand and have multiple stories and multiple messages. But I guess our human brains are only capable of taking a certain amount in at once. And if you want to be left with your audience having a great impression of your speech, it has to be crystal clear, concise message, 10 words or less, and it has to be simple in words that a 10-year-old can understand. I think I was a world champion. I think it was David Brooks. He said it the best. He has this way of writing down your speeches where you use word, and you can actually look to see what kind of grade level that your words are. And he said, if it's not to the point of a 10-year-old can understand, rewrite your speech, make it simple. I think one of the traps that people fall into is they think that it has to be, beginning speakers especially, think it's got to be big. They got to use big words. It's got to be complicated to prove how wonderfully smart you are. No, it's got to be simple. Your message has to be simple. If you can't get into the head, then they're not going to understand the message anyways.
Totally. Can you give an example of what a good message is?
A good message? Yeah, absolutely.
People watching, so they know like what would be a clear message that they might want to use.
Okay. So
your speeches.
Practice what you preach. There's a message. For my last speech, my international speech, the message was, don't let fear interfere with what you want in life. Simple, crystal clear. And everything that you write in your speech should back that message up. If it doesn't, take it out. Get rid of it. There should be nothing in your speech that does not support your theme or message. So here's another thing. The next thing with these 3 things you're going to look for is keep track of the characters you meet. Mm-hmm. What was inspiring about that character? Funny? What was quirky? What made you laugh or think twice or made you feel fear? What was the feeling they made you feel? All these character traits that you can write down in your speeches will enhance your stories and help you connect with your audience. Characters are what drive a story. Can you imagine hearing a speech without characters? You have to have the hero of the story, which is usually yourself, because most of the time you're telling a personal story. But who are the villains in the story? Who are the people that are fighting against you from reaching your goal? Who are the allies in your story? You know, my classic character in my story is my nonna, my Italian grandmother. And it's one of my go-to ones just because it sounds so funny. This little Italian woman. And she comes and criticizes me and taunts me about not being a good Catholic boy. But it's those characters that bring the story to life. Don't let fear interfere. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a good one.
So characters are what drive stories. And it's important to add these into. So make sure you write down your characters as well. Always have a pad with you, whether it's a pad on your phone, as you were saying last time, Evernote. And if you've watched the last one, we're repeating a few things, but I honestly believe that anything worthwhile deserves to be repeated. And this stuff is worthwhile because it's changed the way that I think about speechcraft. It's given me this massive amount of information I could delve into anytime. And most people don't do it. That's why people are struggling. What do I talk about?
Right.
They say, how do you come up with all your stories? Well, I look for them in everyday life. I watch my kids. My dog kicks poop into my face. You know, it's something like that. Anything, just stuff like everything, little thing like this, I write down. If you don't record it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So have that pad with you. Have that, instead of, playing Candy Crush while on the loo, write down the things that happened to you during the day. Keep a note side behind your bed or where you're relaxing. If you ever want to come up with good ideas, go to bed, lay down, close your eyes, or go somewhere, sit, meditate, close your eyes, cut your conscious brain out for a bit. Ask your unconscious mind. Say, give me the story that I need. Give me the idea that I need, and be ready because it'll come. A lot of times when we have that voice telling us we can't do something, or we're trying to think of a different idea, it's our conscious mind's getting in the way. So that's what I do when I want to come up with an idea. As well, I remember you talking about it even before we've done NLP together, since I've learned from you. was you said, before you go to bed,
Mhm.
ask your unconscious mind for that idea, or what do you need to know?
Yep.
And at first, I think during the day I kind of laughed, but then I thought, if Terry's saying it, that must mean something. So that night I went to bed and I closed my eyes. I said to myself, okay, unconscious mind, give me that idea I need. And you know what happened?
You got it.
Nothing. No, it's kidding. Yes, I got it. It came to me.
Yeah.
And I can do that anytime I want to close my eyes and think about it. Something comes to me. What I'm really looking for comes to me. And what I do is I record it, because there's so many of these things that are, sorry, my dog's digging at something. There's so many of these things that you'll need to pull out one time. And even if you don't, it's amazing where they come in handy. If you ever want to be a great storyteller in front of your friends, you want to sit and tell stories and give a little mini speech for practice, you have these things at any time.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, what I do is when I'm writing a speech, before I go to bed, I'll say, what I specifically say is, hey, unconscious mind, you're going to work on this speech for me. I'm going to go to sleep for a few hours. And when I wake up, I'll put pen to paper and I'll see what you have. And it's always there. There's always something there. And then I get to sleep.
So I think one thing that I want to just instill with all of this is it takes it takes practice. And I said last time, I honestly believe, absolutely, not a bit. Yes, story selling, we call it. It's
I was about to say that. Yeah.
It's magical. It is magical, absolutely. When you have all these little stories and things you can say, it's absolutely what can allow you to seal the deal.
It allows a personal level. And when they do that, they're more eager to buy.
Absolutely.
So,
so get practicing. You see, when you first start, it may seem difficult, but you're training your brain to become excellent at this.
Yes. Yeah, we teach this in the NLP training. There's 4 stages of learning anything. And the first stage is unconscious incompetence, which is when you don't know what you don't know. And that's sometimes the most comfortable place to be. You've probably heard people say ignorance is bliss. And then you start to become aware of what you don't know. And that's the most uncomfortable. And for speakers, that's when they feel like, oh, I can't do this. I don't have any stories. I don't have material, because you're aware of what you don't know. And then competence. So now you know what consciously. And then the ultimate place to get to is unconscious competence, which is when you can just do it naturally. And it's kind of like when you were learning how to drive a car. The very first time you got in the car, and maybe it was overwhelming. And before you had ever even thought about driving a car, you didn't know what you didn't know. So you didn't know how it was to drive a car, and you didn't know that you didn't know how to drive a car. The first time you sat in the car, though, you didn't know what to do. And you had to figure out what all these levers do, and the pedals, and what foot goes where, and how do you turn this thing, and where do I look? And that's the most uncomfortable place to be in the learning process. And then you got to a point where you could do it consciously. You still had to think about it, but you could do it. And now you probably just get in the car and you just drive, and you don't really think about what you're doing. And that's where you want to get to as a speaker. And through practice and preparation, you arrive to that place of unconscious competence, where then you can get on stage and it looks really natural. And it feels really natural to do it. I had at one of the Empowered Stories events, I had someone come up to me after, and she said, wow, Terry, you're such a natural speaker. And there was another woman standing there who said, no, she's not. And at first I was a little taken back. And then she said, she's someone who has worked on her craft to make it look that natural. And that's where you want to get to as a speaker. And by going through preparation and doing these steps and practicing, preparing your stories, doing it intentionally, you arrive to a point where it just comes out of you naturally.
And let me tag this on here because I think it's very important.
Mm.
If you have fear of public speaking, a lot of this fear comes from your self-talk. It's you're telling yourself, I'm not ready for this. I can't do this.
Right.
And practice and preparation can eliminate that. For example, one of our friends, Lily, this weekend, she did a workshop. And she was nervous about it, and she wasn't sure it's going to go well, but she took 3 extra days to prepare. And she mentioned to me yesterday, it just went wonderful. Everything just clicked, and it was because of those 3 extra days practice and preparation to make sure that she felt comfortable with it. That'll eliminate your fear. If you practice and prepare, that'll take a step to eliminating what you fear the most.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Does anyone have any questions?
No questions right now. If you guys have any questions, please feel free to post them. We're happy to stick around for a little bit and answer any questions you might have. Yeah. Is there anything else you think we should mention?
Yeah, too much for tonight, though.
Well, that's why this is episode 1. Then there's an episode 2.
This will come into actually preparing your speech, which is there's a lot. You might even break that into a couple episodes as well.
Yeah, we could do that. Yeah.
But I think this is a great exercise. If you're willing to do this and you're willing to do it consistently, you'll be the Joe Pollard, my grandpa. You'll have enough wood in your wood pile to last you many winters to come. You don't want to be like old Silvio there, didn't prepare in time. Start stocking up. Start stocking up. You have enough to use, enough to give away, enough to sell for years to come.
And Duet just asked if this is recorded. And it is recorded. It'll stay on our Facebook page. So if you want to share it with anyone who you think might benefit, please do that. Or if you want to come back and visit it, it'll stay on the Facebook page. Yeah.
So that was fun.
That was fun.
Yeah. So no questions.
Nope, that was it. Just about the recording.
Should we do this like every Wednesday? Webinar Wednesday?
I think we should. Come up with a better name. But yeah, I think we should. I think it'd be fun.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so we'll do these every Wednesday. And
thanks for watching. If you're watching, thanks for watching.
Yeah, we have a few people. Watching.
Yeah.
So thanks for watching. If you have any questions, please post them, and we'll happily check back in and answer in the comments as well. Oh, hello, Duet. Duet says hello. Yeah, awesome. Well, this was a lot of fun, and we'll be back next Wednesday. So check for that in this page. We'll be back Wednesday night, same time, 7 p.m. And we'll talk more in preparation next week. Right? Right. Okay. All right, guys. Have a good night. Thanks for joining us.
Yeah.